hell is this? You broke my dome. Clint doesn't take himself or the idea of telling a story, of making a movie, overly seriously. It's just a movie.
Clint Eastwood is really funny. He's got an amazing sense of humor, which surprised me.
Clyde, this is gonna stop. People are gonna talk, you know?
I had a few films that had done pretty well, so the studio kind of said, okay, I got a guy, we'll let him do the one with the orangutan is, and then we'll get him committed to the insane asylum.
Right turn, Clyde.
I've had reason to sort of talk with him over the years, you know, here and there. You bump into him, and he's a funny guy.
What'd you have for breakfast, Frank?
Let's see, I had vegetarian huevos rancheros, egg whites only, of course, and then some sort of filtered decaf cappuccino that tasted like it was filtered through a jockstrap.
He directs all kinds of different film. He directs films with monkeys in them. I mean, he just he doesn't seem to say no. He seems to say, why not? And I think that's a really amazing quality for a director. Why not?
Tell me, just what is the country western mentality?
Well, if the lyrics of the song are any indication, it's somewhere between moron and dull normal. Oh my Jesus, you are disgusting. Oh.
This wild clam got out of control.
In his long career, Clint Eastwood has made a wide variety of action films. But some of his biggest hits have been movies in which the action is tempered by a healthy dose of humor.
When you're younger, you play a lot of roles. Some of them have great social values, and some of them are just action-packed entertainment pieces. And there's room for all of that.
Well, throttle, you understand?
Every which way but loose, and I've been going off and making pictures with orangutans. Everybody thought I'd lost my mind at that time. But I'd done a lot of R-rated pictures, action films, and what have you, and I wanted to do something that families could go to see and kids might like, and so it was just another period in my life. So I was looking at it from that point of view, and besides, I thought there was craziness about the script that was appealing at that time.
How many times have I told you I don't want him drinking beer except on Saturday night?
No, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. Come on, no, you don't. Give me that. Give me it.
The whole concept of the movie was a little much for some of the management here.
All right, Clyde, you're gonna meet a lady now, understand? I want you to handle it. That means no spitting, pissing, farting, or picking your ass. You hear me?
One of the executives from Warner Brothers said to me, come up to me and said, Barry, that movie's unreleasable.
Then I took the picture to Tupelo, Mississippi. That was the most incredible screening I've ever seen. They went wild.
Hey, buddy, are you taking your mother for a ride?
As a director, Eastwood has always had a knack for coaxing unforgettable performances from his actors. Working with co-star Clyde was no exception.
God, you're a handsome devil.
I used to take dates, and I'd put them in my pocket. And then I'd sit there and I'd take the date out and I'd be like eating it and I'd pretend like I didn't know he was there. And I would look over and you see him just looking at you like this. Pretty soon I'll go, oh yeah, you here, just give him a date or two. And pretty soon, you know, he's your buddy. Everything in life is fakery, just like making movies.
You're getting pretty tricky, Clyde.
But it turned out okay and the studio made a lot of money on it.
I think the movie eventually grossed somewhere around $78 million, which is a huge amount of money in those days for a movie.
I got a lot of kisses from an orangutan, which is a little bit, it's okay.
Eastwood's down-to-earth approach and utter lack of pretension have kept audiences coming back to his action movies for over 50 years.
I don't know, he manages to hit this kind of nerve that the country understands. Maybe a lot of filmmakers get out of touch with who they're making films for. he certainly does not do that. He's sort of in touch with the heartland.
Mr. Mayor, Inspector Callahan.
All right, let's have it.
Have what?
Your report. What have you been doing?
Oh, well, for the past 3/4 of an hour, I've been sitting on my ass in your outer office, waiting on you.
I find humor in a lot of the stuff he does. Even those Dirty Harry things, I think they're funny. There was this kind of undercurrent of humor in it.
That man had rights.
Well, I'm all broken up about that man's rights.
You could laugh in his movies. You could sit there and be entertained like in a comedy sometimes, and at the same time, 2 seconds later, be totally scared and frightened because he got very intense. So he gave you kind of a multi-dimensional character, which I think worked really well and became the new standard for action movies and for those kind of films.
Combining action with humor comes naturally to Clint Eastwood, never more so than in the story of the idealistic head of a Wild West show named Bronco Billy.
Are those real bullets?
It's a special buckshot that doesn't go too far. But don't worry, I never miss.
Bronco Billy was great fun to play because, you know, the dreamer, and he dreams his life into something. He says literally in the script, he says,
I'm who I want to be.
When I first read it, I just was so intrigued by it. It was one of those scripts you couldn't put down once you started reading. A guy out there with his obsolete Wild West show, and he has absolutely nothing going, but he has this dream of having property and a place for kids.
I save every dime, every nickel goes in that little tin box, and one of these days we'll get that ranch we want, so city kids could come out and see what cowboys and Indians are really like.
It was a great thing about loyalties, too. I mean, Bronco Billy was terribly loyal. He had great virtues, even though he's a man in modern-day society.
You're the best bunch of wranglers in America, and don't you ever forget it. And you're riding with Bronco Billy, the fastest draw in the West. Now let's hit the trail.
It was a naive picture, but it was a sweet story. It reminded me very much of a Capra film. If Capra was still directing films when that came along, I assume that's the kind of thing he might have done. I wanted to do my Capra film.
Eastwood's sense of humor is not confined to his on-screen storytelling, as his collaborators have often discovered.
Oh, good Lord. One time, we were doing this scene with all these guns.
Were you expecting a zombie invasion or something?
He picked up the .44 Magnum and went, .44 Magnum, most powerful handgun in the world. And he put it back on the bed and he left. And Paul and I just looked at each other. Did that just happen?
You're a great cop, Harry. You had a chance to join the team, but you'd rather stick with the system.
Briggs, I hate the system. But until someone comes along with some changes that make sense, I'll stick with it.
You're about to become extinct.
I remember when we did that scene in the car. Frightening. I think it was shot on a Sunday. We're up in San Francisco, you know, with those hills. And I think it was shot on a Sunday so that he could come down that road in San Francisco that is like a snake back and forth, straight down, you know? I was in the car with him. And I think it was the sound man was laying down behind us, and they had 2 cameras on the hood. Clint got in the car and did the driving. I thought, well, you know, he won't go too fast. He's not a stunt driver, you know. Well, man alive, I was scared out of my wits because when we started down that thing back and forth, he was roaring down that thing. And I thought, good grief, if anybody steps out in front of us, they're a goner, you know. And he really handled the car well. You knew he was scaring the living lights out of me, you know. I think he got a big kick out of that.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Eastwood's lack of pretension extends to his own work in front of the camera as well.
Somebody told me a story once that he was working with a director, and the director was saying, Clint, could you do it again? Could you put it a little more this or a little more? And he was giving him some directions, and he got him aside, and he said, hey, I got about 2 ways of doing things, and you've seen them both. Move on.
Uh-huh. And how old are you, Frank?
Old enough to know your ass is in a sling.
For the tale of 4 over-the-hill astronauts called into action for one final mission Space Cowboys gave Eastwood the chance to combine action, comedy, and adventure.
You don't need those, do you?
Well, no, just to read, go to movies, drive, walk, you know.
Not to mention the pleasure of sharing the screen with some of his favorite performers.
Just gonna do the bottom 3 lines, F-L-E-P-T, P-L-E-P-F.
You have 20/10 vision, Captain.
Yeah, these are just for looking at you, kid. I may be blind, Frank, but my memory is perfect. F-L-E-P-T, P-L-E-P-F-L.
It's a terrific cast, and there are people that I've always admired in their work along the way. I worked with Jimmy years ago when we were both starting out 45 years ago in one of his Maverick episodes, and I've known him for years. But sometimes you go a whole career and you never work with a lot of people that you admire.
I'm receiving a word from on high.
And what is that word?
The word is, why the hell not?
There you go.
Though he arrives on set fully prepared for the day's shoot, Eastwood nevertheless allows himself a measure of spontaneity, particularly when sharing the screen with a bunch of pros.
A lot of those montage sequences that we did in this film were all improvised. I just said, come on in, we'll walk in this room, and we'll talk about this. And it was like the first time, and I just go like this, the cameraman, and he's rolling. You're just having a little bit of an acid thing.
No. It's a flashback. No, seriously.
Wait to it.
A couple times Jim Garner said, are we rehearsing that? What are we doing? I said, no, that's it.
Okay, we're not going to rehearse?
It helps that camaraderie aspect that works, I think, in the film.
Clint's the easiest director I ever worked for. I mean, he pretty well lets you do what you want. If there's something you're not doing, he might just mention it. But that's all it is. You might want to do this, Jim. Okay.
I want somebody other than Mr. Garner to help him up there. He doesn't trust me.
You get stuck in there. You get stuck in no man's land, you'll be in there like this.
I remember it was the second day of shooting or something. And Clint had said, why don't you sit here? And so me, Little Miss Theater, says, great. Clint, how about, would it be worth anything if the guy comes in and I'm sitting here doing this and then I do X, Y, or Z? And Clint says, how about you just do what I said? I said, okay.
Known for his naturalistic, slice-of-life style, Eastwood had to expand his comfort zone for Space Cowboys.
There's effects, and there's visual effects, and then special effects, and I'm used to shooting just more or less stories with characters and just kind of forging right on ahead. This stuff can bog you down sometimes. Look down as best you can down to the shuttle below you. I guess when you hear the horror stories of what goes on in some companies, that take 2 or 3 days to make a shot, that would really be depressing. But we've been down to where we've done 1 or 2 shots a day, or 2 or 3 shots a day at the minimum, and you think, God, that's slow.
You better pull up, sir. You're gonna lose it again.
Fire an F-A2, you can lose your avionics.
Well, I don't need them anyway. This thing's a flying brick on approach anyway, isn't it?
It was highly educational experience. It did everything that I hoped it would be. But it was more fun than I thought it would be.
The worst feeling in the world is leaving this film. The only gratifying thing is that maybe I'll lose some weight. Clint, one of the first things he does is hire an excellent caterer, the best. And you can't resist. Tonight it was Chateaubriand lobster, you know? I mean, so you eat. I put on 7 pounds in this picture. I'm supposed to be a thin guy. My belly's hanging out in space. I look like a half moon up there.
The crew, the way the sets run, the way he directs, is as good as you're ever going to find anywhere.
He expects everyone else to have fun, too. It's really part of the system. And it's nice to wake up in the morning knowing that your first responsibility is to have a good time.
It was worth the wait.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you, Frank. I owe you one.
I don't think Clint takes himself so seriously. I think he takes the business seriously, but not himself seriously.
He's not the stand-up comic delivering the fast and funny lines, but every now and then, he's got some zingers.
He absolutely likes to laugh. That was one of the first things I surprisingly learned about him, that you didn't have to act like you're in a Western all the time, like you just imagine what you know about him. He loves silly like nobody's business.
I'm pro!
Oh, you're gonna pay for this. You're gonna pay.
My name is Gunnery Sergeant Highway, and I've drunk more beer and pissed more blood and banged more quiff, busted more balls than all you numbnuts put together.
For Sully, I didn't read the script. Clint asked me to be a part of something, and I said yes. And then I read the script.
He's the most wonderful, elegant, honest, genuine man. It's a pleasure and an honor to work for him.
I don't know many people who've turned down a Clint Eastwood movie. Really, I bet it's a very short list.
We're not just gonna let you walk out of here.
Who's we, sucker?
Smith and Wesson and me.